Hello, everyone. Ryan here. Welcome to another Uncomplication, a year-ending Uncomplication. Saying goodbye to 2021, a big year for a lot of us in a lot of ways, and welcoming 2022, a new chance to kick ass, take names, and be an influence in the world that we want to be. And today I am going to hit you with a whole bunch of ideas, a lot of revelations and things that I've learned in 2021. I wanted to do kind of a retrospecticus that covered some of the main themes and discoveries of 2021. And I'm going to be talking about crypto because that's what brought us all together, but I'm also going to be talking about real life stuff because I think that crypto is this really interesting mirror that I have found all year. It has reflected to me these deeper natures, this deeper self that we can often pretend isn't there. But then when you're actually in a place like crypto, dealing with your emotions and riding that roller coaster of fear and greed, you can learn a lot about yourself in a very short amount of time. And I'm actually quite thankful. It's a strange thing to say, but I'm grateful that crypto was a part of my experience this year because it started that process of opening up, of questioning, of seeing the world in a different way, and of being open and receptive to these learnings that I saw in this crypto mirror. And one of the things that I want to start off talking about is sort of the way that this channel got found, got noticed, blew up, is this revelation that everything is manipulated. Crypto earlier this year, to me, was this huge, optimistic, glowing future that I was so excited about. And when I found out that it is just a market and that markets are places that people make money, and that this was all manipulated, this story that we were all being told about Bitcoin going to 220,000 by the end of the year and get on board now, it's a rocket to the moon, all that type of talk. When we actually saw the Wyckoff logic behind it and got to that deeper why and realized that this is a space and it is manipulated like anything else, that was like I've said several times, a kind of falling out, a kind of crashing down of this hope, this future that I wanted to believe that we were arriving in. But the realization that I've had is that, yeah, it's all manipulated. So what? Everything is manipulated. If you look at crypto and how it works and how we have these voices that are shouting at us to do the wrong things at the wrong time. When you look at a Wyckoff distribution, it's all about telling the public things are going higher, things are going higher, things are going higher, while those interests are selling in a high price range, and then they turn it all around, and then they scare everyone. It's going lower, it's going lower, it's going lower to keep people away so they can buy it back up. That's really not dissimilar from any kind of marketing. When you watch a commercial on TV, they're playing with your emotions, they're playing with your sense of self, with your greed, with your insecurities to try and sell you something that you don't have. I feel like I've had this wake-up call that humans, by and large, are constantly manipulating ourselves, each other. We're all in on it. We're all doing it all the time. If you're in crypto and you want to be able to buy low and sell high, you're manipulating the price too. We're all in this same game together. And I think that that's okay because it is what it is. And if you can understand it, just like Richard Wyckoff did in the early 1900s, he didn't then say, hey, we should stop the stock market. This is all smoke and mirrors. He instead said, this is how a market works. Let's learn how to read it. Let's learn how to play it. Let's go with those interests. And we can make money doing that. And at the end of the day, I don't know that we've improved our human nature, but at least we've accepted it. At least we're doing something with it. And at least we're not in that place of suspended disbelief and having our spirits crushed again and again and again because we're believing the marketing. You can go buy something out of marketing and know that you're being marketed to. That's different than really believing that you're not a complete person until you have this item, this car, this image of yourself. So that gets me into this other piece, the suspension of disbelief, the willingness to see a future, even if it goes against our common sense. I think crypto does that a lot. It's sort of the epitome of the technology fairy godmother that's going to save us. I keep looking out at Colorado that is just so dry. We haven't had, at least where I live, we've had like 3 drops of moisture since like July. I don't even know the last time it rained. And so, in a world like that where we are watching the forests disappear and actually helping cut them down, and we are facing communities that might be running out of water and farmland that won't be farmable anymore, all of these real, urgent, pressing disasters that are unfolding with our complicit participation. And here we are all looking at Bitcoin prices thinking that that's going to be the thing that bails us out. That, if I just move my cash into Bitcoin, it's not going to matter that there's no rain. I'm going to have more money than the dude next to me, and somehow I'm going to be in a lifeboat while he's sinking. I think that's bullshit. I think we're all on the same planet. We're all in the same boat. And that, I don't know, this hyper focus on individual getting aheadedness is precisely the process that has led to a lot of the disasters that we're now unwilling to accept, and instead we're substituting these other realities. So with crypto, we have this sort of disembodied value structure. We've separated the money from the work. We've separated the value from the connection to anything tangible. And we just have this space where we think that we can have the good life without any participation in the real life. And that has kind of brought me back to some of these ideas about my needs and my wants. I went into the Amazon rainforest and spent several days with people who have been living the same way for thousands and thousands of years. And I came back with a radically different understanding of what we actually need. Not what we want, but what we actually need. And those needs are very small. What we actually need is very, very small. And on top of that is this complexity of all of these wants. So it's all manipulated. So what? If we zoom out and we see the big picture, whether it's a price chart of Bitcoin or whether it's our own lives, when we zoom out, I think we see the bigger patterns, the bigger structure. I've always loved going up in an airplane and having a window seat and looking down and watching that world of face-to-face, human-sized things just shrink down to these patterns of roads and waterways and farmland and cities. And it doesn't take much to shrink humans down to just these forms that are very organic, are very natural. You see them all over the natural world. And so if you zoom out, literally zoom out on humanity, you can see it as an organism like any other. And all of a sudden your little individual problems kind of disappear. And similarly, I think if we zoom out on our lives and kind of see how this moment in time, whether it's an up or a down, fits into this bigger story, this bigger narrative, we can see how those moments of our lowest lows are sometimes the bottom that we need to move forward, to put in new highs, to actually go on some rallies and to accomplish something. I think this year I hit a number of bottoms, but those were the floor that I needed to push off against and to actually move ahead. So I'm a proponent of this idea, when in doubt, zoom out. And I think that it is a balance of holding on to our needs, holding on to our values, and also letting go and accepting this thing as it's happening, this human story that's unfolding, this environment that's in chaos, this political upheaval that is across the world, financial destabilization. All of these things is just the human happening. And I think it's okay to go with that flow and use the power of it at our backs, not to escape from it, not to step on the head of your neighbor so that you can get the fresh air and they're drowning, but to see the human happening as it is and to participate in it awake and with compassion and with, I don't know, a sense of humanity that I think is being sucked out of us more and more as we're in touch with these technologies only. So let me transition a little bit to real life stuff, because for me, that has been kind of the bigger thing. This was a little image that I had drawn earlier this year that just captured some of the stuff that I was experiencing this year. Big things. Crypto is on here. It's this little itty bitty pocket that is more connected to these emotions, fear and greed, real work, saying no, life lessons, these types of things. But, my year has been a lot more defined by these bigger topics, these bigger experiences. And so some of the things that I just wanted to share that I learned in 2021, first and foremost, it's okay. It's okay to feel exactly how you feel right now as you are, and it's okay to feel your emotions. I actually had to learn how to cry this year. That's right, Luna, she remembers. I was so cross-wired from my 10 years as an entrepreneur, as a leader, taking the gripes of everyone else and kind of turning that energy into motivational speeches and overworking and all of that stuff. I was so cross-wired that I didn't know how to feel my own emotions. And I actually, I had a woman, an amazing woman who did Reiki, like energy healing, that helped me unblock some of those passages of energy in my body. And I found myself crying a lot this year. I don't think I've cried at all in like 10 years. And this year I have cried a ton, and it has been wonderful. And I'm not afraid anymore to express that emotion. I think it's repressed. I think we're told that it's a sign of weakness. And I think in actuality, it is part of the functioning of a healthy human, and that just having those circuits open allows them to be cleared out and allows us to, hold what we need to hold, let go of what we need to let go of, but to just really dig in and feel our feelings, and to rest, and to know that it's okay to pause, to take time for ourselves, to take time for our relationships, and not feel like we're strapped to the hamster wheel all the time. That sometimes it's really, really valuable to pause and ask some big questions and get messy, really messy, in order to put the pieces back together in new and better ways. So, I've also kind of come to this commitment to doing things a bit wrong. YouTube is a great example. As soon as I kind of got into this YouTube space, it became really obvious to me how that goes with a lot of the things that I disagree with. To be on YouTube, to have a channel like this, everyone has been telling me, turn on AdSense. That's the way to get paid. That's how you make money. And as soon as you take those little bites of bait, you can find yourself stuck in these patterns of behavior that might not be the ones that you want to be in. And so part of this is just being okay with who I am, and being okay to do things a bit wrong, and to say, you know what, I'm going to post videos really infrequently. I'm going to switch up topics on my audience because it's the things that I want to talk about. And that, going into 2022 is also what I am embodying. I feel like part of what my work was this year was just digging down to these roots and realizing that at the heart of myself is this feeling of unbelonging that I think was created over a lifetime of not really fitting in, of not really conforming, of always kind of doing things the wrong way, of always overanalyzing and running my mouth and fighting with authority and all of these things. And, deep down in me is this feeling that I don't belong, that I'm not accepted. And getting back to those roots and just understanding them has been huge. And so I'm speaking to you now. I'm here talking because when you hear someone sharing advice or preaching or sharing philosophy, 9 times out of 10, that person is speaking because those words are what they most need to hear. So I'm coming on here not so much telling you what you need to know, but trying to convince me of what deep down I feel I truly believe. And so, we as our individual selves, we become who we're being. We might carry around with us this image of ourselves that, oh, I'm really a good person. I do good things. I take care of people. I'm healthy. I eat well, this, that, and the other. And you might carry that around in your head. But if you're not acting that way, if that's not actually what you're doing, then you're showing up in the world in a very different way from how you're thinking about yourself. And that's where we get into these crises of self-image. That happened to me big time this year, where I had to kind of pause and reflect and say, who am I actually being? I know who I think I am, but who am I actually showing up as? And working on that first and foremost, I think was a really important thing for me to do this year. And so, I'm getting towards the end here, but I just wanted to say that going into 2022, we are facing as a population such incredible challenge. Everything from the slow crumbling of the institutions that have previously supported our global communities, to the crises of division among our communities and people being divided in their interests and divided in their willingness to work together to create a future worth waking up for, to the environmental issues that are, very, very real and present. Here in the United States, California is on fire. Places are getting flooded, or, storms that are smashing them way more frequently than they used to. I keep talking about how dry Colorado is. We haven't had a drop of moisture in months. There's a real world that we're facing, that we are indeed a symptom of. And I see 2022 not as a time to just sit back and say I'm a victim and it's all manipulation, it's all garbage, it's all bullshit. I'm just going to go buy Bitcoin and pretend that I'm going to be spared from it all. I know that I am going to own my experience. I'm going to take responsibility for how I'm showing up in the world. And I'm going to wake up each day with gratitude and excitement that this is my life and that I get to go out and live it and share it. And even if it's in the face of all of these scary things, that's humanity. It's always been that way. It has always been a time before a war or a disaster or some, horrible, terrible thing. But it doesn't matter. That's what life is. And I am excited to be living it. So, intentions, I think, are an interesting thing. This is about the time of year, in December, that my co-founder at Community Funded and our executive team would often get together and do planning for the new year. And we talked a lot about these intentions and how they work. And it might be an Alan Watts thing. It's something that, is kind of deep within me now. But this idea that intentions are exactly that. It is putting yourself in tension for a period of time, long enough that you can focus on a target, that you can actually put yourself in tension, flex your muscles, pull back that bowstring. But to have intention also means that at some point you got to let go. You got to have that intention to point at the target, but then let go, let the arrow fly, resist the urge to make it perfect or run out there and try and correct it as it flies. But just, take your best shot, have that intention, and then let it go and see what happens. And I think that's where I'm coming into 2022. I have a lot of intention for Uncomplication, but I also realize that I need to let go. I need to let the arrow fly. I need to see what happens, and I just need to keep doing it. Shoot an arrow, watch it fly, see how it did, put yourself in tension again, pull that bowstring back, shoot another arrow, see how it goes. And so that is something that is pretty big in my experience right now, is going into 2022. I hope that if you have benefited from anything that I've done this year, if you've enjoyed the videos, if you've learned about crypto or yourself or the world and it's helped you, that you will continue to support me in this journey. Some of the things that I'm doing, if you're here listening to the end, I consider you one of those, super fans. And I'm sure there's a far smaller number of you who are listening to the end than the people that, kind of tuned out at the 5-minute mark. And so for you, I am incredibly thankful. I feel like you're the one that, really resonates with what I'm saying and doing here, and how I am doing things a bit wrong, yet you're sticking with me, and I really appreciate that. So a few things I'd ask you to do going into 2022 is, YouTube to me is going to be more of a tool than a servant, or a master, rather. I don't think my life lives on YouTube. I am setting up a Patreon, which is going to be where I can post a lot more frequently. Since my last video on YouTube, I've created probably 4 different videos that I haven't posted on YouTube because it's too personal, or it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't feel right. I have hesitation putting those things on YouTube. So that Patreon is where I'm going to be posting a lot more just raw and probably more, deep and useful content if you are the type of person who listens to the end. So that's patreon.com/uncomplication. So you can check that out. Me and Luna, we're going to keep this project going. Also, subscribe to the Uncomplication podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to be putting a lot more content there because that's also a much easier medium. It's easier to have a conversation with someone without all the video components, and I really like the audio format. So you can go check out the Uncomplication podcast. There's a lot of episodes I've done there. There's also an older podcast that's called the Thin Air podcast, THINAYR podcast, and that's actually before Uncomplication, where I was really digging into these questions of, Taoism, comparative mythology, why do anything at all. It was my kind of beatnik garden philosopher days. You can check that out as well. But I really want to thank you especially for being part of this journey with me. And going into 2022, I'm excited to do a lot of really cool things together. Travel back to the rainforests, see a bigger world, invite more people in to share their perspective with us. I know I keep talking about doing it and only kind of partially doing it, but with your help and, Patreon and not turning on ads on YouTube, because that's not the path for me. I think that we have a chance of doing some really cool things together. So I'm going to stop blabbing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, as always, cheers.